Hello everyone, welcome to our Investment Launchpad session 2, Understanding Investment Types. So I hope all our startup doing well and staying safe. So my name is Anil Kumar, Startup Manager at Jhansi Incubation Center, and we are delighted to welcome our esteemed mentor for today's session. That is Abhishek Kapahi. So as a startup mentor affiliated with the IIMs and IITs, Abhishek brings a wealth of experience in pitch deck, financial products, and business. So today, he'll guide us through the system of understanding types, critical topic startup landscape. So we are excited to learn from his extensive experience and insights. So welcome, Abhishek. So before
Thank
starting,
you.
I request to all startups, please drop your questions in the comment box, and we will take questions after the session. So without further delay, I would like to invite Mr. Rajan. Let's Abhishek,
Sure.
first I will.
Thank you so much, Anil, for such a warm welcome. Good evening, guys. My name is Abhishek, as Anil told you. I'm a startup mentor, also an angel investor, and a founder of a company called Scalar B, where we facilitate the investment journey of our startup founders. For anyone who's looking for fundraising, we help them in complete hand holding from starting from their documentation and also helping them connect with the right kind of investors. So today, Rais Jhansi has invited me to talk on a topic where we'll be talking about an investment, different kind of investments and how businesses can opt for these kind of investments. Anil, if we can start the PPT that we have created. So,
Yeah.
guys, we have created a small PPT just to give the whole format of our conversations today. So, topic for today is understanding investment types and financing options. Now, a lot of businesses or startup founders they have this question that Abhishek and they usually ask me that Abhishek, what kind of financials or let's say what kind of investment options are better for us for our particular business. The thing is, the question that arises is because not everyone is looking for equity based financing. They do not want to give their equity at the first because they're initially starting the business as of now. So they're looking for other options as well. That, Abhishek, I don't want to give 15 to 20% of my equity because eventually these investors will be asking for this percentage. This is really early for me to, dilute this equity and to give in just to gain that capital. So then there are different options, other different options as well in respect to not giving an equity, but actually, let's say asking for money from an investor and eventually telling them that in future I can give you your money back, or either in future if you think that it's an investable business, till date, then I'll be giving you an equity. But till then, you'll be able to analyze how my growth has been. You'll be able to analyze how much revenue I've been generating for you. I'll be giving interest on your payment or any capital that you're inducing, thus increasing the, let's say, interest of any investor as well as decreasing their risk capabilities as well. We can move to the next slide, Anil. Now here comes the importance for startup. As I told you that every financing impacts the startup's valuation differently. Just in case, a lot of startups comes to me saying that Abhishek, my investor is asking for a 30% equity in my business. Should I give it to them? And currently my answer is every time that, don't do it. The reason why it's happening is because it's definitely be affecting your valuation. For example, he's just giving, let's say, 1 CR, not even 1 CR, let's say 10 lakhs, and he's asking for 10% equity, which means that your valuation comes out to be 1 CR. But rather, if we study the market scenario, that comes out to be 3 CR. Then eventually you have given much more equity on lesser pricing and lesser gaining, lesser capital in returns of that. So I tell them that don't go for that because eventually it will affect your valuation differently. Once you go for another fundraising, then also you have to give more equity, and then you'll be in return getting lesser capital in let's say in return of that. Second thing is when equity is involved, this means that you're giving a ownership or stake in to someone else in your company, right? With ownership comes control. With control comes expectations as well. So there are different aspect when we involve someone else from outside the company, because now they'll be making some decisions as well, because he'll tell you that, Abhishek, you know what, I own the 15% of your company, I have that equity, I've given you money, so you have to take my, let's say, my point of view in consideration. Or maybe you are unable to take control of some situations as of now, because an investor might get quite hefty with you in respect to their expectations as well, that I have gained 15% of your equity and I've given you money, so you have to understand my point, you have to say yes to everything that I say. So that is the importance, where if you talk about, let's say, gaining funding from an equity a perspective, then these things can be affected. Second thing is the agenda overview, which means that what are other ways through which you can raise funds as well. Now that can be convertible instruments. Then of course equity based financings come into place. Hybrid financing instruments are always there, and you must be aware that there are business loan options which can be taken from, let's say, some NBFCs, banks as well, some government organization who are giving you business loans or less interest, or some government schemes as well who are giving you a particular capital, let's say 25 lakhs for 6% of interest, but for 25 years or 10 years. So there are different options to do. We can move to the next one. So here, what are convertible notes? These are the convertible notes. आपने ये term बहुत ज़्यादा सुना होगा अभी तक, कि convertible notes भी एक option होता है. But I don't think a lot of people understand the term convertible notes. और ज़्यादातर investors इस चीज़ के अंदर inclined भी नहीं होते, because they want that ownership in your business, right? So today we'll be discussing about कि convertible notes actually में होते क्या हैं. So, a quick introduction. These convertible notes are short-term debts. जैसे जो कि एक बिजनेस है, वो अपने कन्वर्टेबल नोट्स बनाता है और वो अब एक इन्वेस्टर को देता है, तो दिस इज द नोट और अ बॉन्ड, काइंड ऑफ अ बॉन्ड दैट आई एम गिविंग इट टू यू. It's in return of a short-term debt. And I tell you that, you know what, in return of this money that you are sharing with me or giving to me, one day, let's say, when my business will be raising funds, you can come back, give me these convertible notes, and in return of that money, I'll be giving you some equity in my business. So this is what convertible notes is. That you give me money right now, I'll be giving you a written document that this person XYZ has given me this much capital. In the next fundraising, I'll be, he can give me back this document and I'll be giving him some equity. This is the percentage of equity that I can give it to him. And at the end, it's beneficial for investor as well, because he tend to get discounted valuation. For example, let's say he raised funds, a startup raises funds, and one share is costing him 10,000 rupees. But an investor who has convertible notes, a founder has already tell them that you have discounted cash flow, discounted valuation, which means that you'll be getting this similar share in 5,000 rupees. So it's beneficial for investor as well to invest at that particular time, right? Second thing, for startup, the benefit of convertible notes is they do not have to create valuation of their business first. That can be deferred, because once they raise funds, that is when the valuation is taken into consideration, right? Second thing is, what if we are not creating the valuation now, which means that there are no negotiations that are happening according to the valuation. An investor is giving money based on what he thinks that he can provide you that, and on the base of interest that you are telling that in return of this money, I'll be giving you some interests as well for the time duration till the date when we raise funds. Then comes advantage for startups. Exactly what I was saying. Immediate valuation negotiation. It does not happen. So for early stage startups who do not know how much their business is worth it, they're not giving much more equity as well. And once they get some traction using that capital that an investor has induced in the business, getting some traction, going into the market, working, and let's say getting interest from different investors as well, that's when the valuation is needed. And negotiation can also happen once let's say other investors are interested in their business, right? We can move to the next one. Now this is a different kind of convertible debenture or a convertible note. This is a compulsory one, which means that after a particular time, let's say after 6 months, or let's say after 5 months, I tell my investor that after 5 months I'll be converting your convertible notes or debentures into equity, and this is the equity that they will be converted in. Or once once the fundraising is done, then I'll be converting your shares, or this money that you have shared with me, into capital or the equity based shares with you. So it's a compulsory thing that comes into place. It's similar to that as well. Valuation is not needed in the starting. Once the fundraising is being done, or let's say valuation is created for funding, that is when the valuation is needed. And then of course advantages for startup is because they do not have to get into the negotiations as of now. Once they raise funds, or there are talks of fundraising, then only that valuation of the business is needed. But this the difference between convertible notes and compulsory convertible notes is that there is an option of either an investor can choose that I can get interest on this money, or either I can actually convert it into an equity one day. We can move to the next one, Anil. Now compulsory convertible preference shares. अब प्रेफरेंस शेयर्स क्या होते हैं? जैसे भी कोई भी कंपनी होती है, अगर कोई भी स्टार्टअप है या कोई भी कंपनी है, वो एक प्रेफरेंस शेयर्स निकालती है किसी इन्वेस्टर्स के लिए. प्रेफरेंस शेयर्स का मतलब होता है कि एज द वर्ड स्टेट्स कि मैं इन इन्वेस्टर्स को एक प्रेफरेंस दे रहा हूँ, एक प्रायोरिटी दे रहा हूँ किसी भी चीज़ के लिए. अगर मैं किसी भी डिबेंचर्स के ऊपर इंटरेस्ट दूंगा अपनी कंपनी के अंदर, तो पहले प्रेफरेंस शेयर होल्डर्स को वो इंटरेस्ट मिलेगा, उसके बाद बाकी शेयर होल्डर्स को इंटरेस्ट मिलेगा. तो एक प्रायोरिटी वाली चीज़ आती है. इसके अंदर ये सिमिलर ही होता है कन्वर्टेबल नोट्स पे, बट ऑन अ प्रेफरेंस शेयर्स, कि आपको मैंने प्रेफरेंस शेयर्स दिए अपार्ट फ्रॉम दैट आई विल बी शेयरिंग सम इक्विटी विद यू, बट यू विल बी गेटिंग प्रायोरिटी एज वेल in respect to other debenture holders or other convertible note holders, right? Here also valuation aspect is there. Here valuation is needed where it's immediate, so that a preference shareholder is let's say pre-informed that this is the valuation, pre-money valuation that is already been done, and we set a share price that at no matter what, this is the share price that will be that you will be getting, whether it's fundraising or something like that, right? Then comes advantage for startup. Now this is the main aspect where compulsory convertible preference share comes in, because investors are getting priority on returns, right? Apart from the other convertible note holders or the debenture holders, these guys are getting priorities on their return. So it attracts much more funding and much more number of investors coming in, and it actually affects heavily affects impacts on the current ownership. The reason behind this is that because if I'm getting a balance in my risk, that apart from the other debenture holders, I am getting priority, which means that it reduces my risk as well. That I'll be getting the first preference to get some returns or get some interest, or even get the fundraising shares as well, right? So it increases the number of investors who are interested to invest in your business. Eventually it gives a benefit to the founder, because now he can negotiate in that manner, and that is the reason valuation comes into picture, because now he can negotiate in that manner, that this is the equity that I'll be diluting in, this is the share price that we can give it to you once we raise funds, and valuation is created in a manner that this is the percentage that I'm willing to dilute, not more than that. We can move to the next one, Anil. Now there are ऑप्शनल कन्वर्टेबल डिवेंचर्स. अभी हमने सिर्फ बात करी थी कन्वर्टेबल डिवेंचर्स के अंदर, जिसके अंदर वो इन्वेस्टर जो है, जो स्टार्टअप है, वो कन्वर्ट कर सकता है आपके डिवेंचर्स को इनटू इक्विटी. मगर यहाँ पे एक ऑप्शन आता है ऑप्शनल कन्वर्टेबल डिवेंचर्स. इसका मतलब क्या होता है? इसका मतलब होता है कि जो इन्वेस्टर है वो चूज कर सकता है कि क्या वो इस डिवेंचर्स को इक्विटी में कन्वर्ट करना चाहता है या नहीं करना चाहता. जैसे कि कन्वर्टेबल डिवेंचर्स में होता है कि मैंने फंड रेस करा, वो फंडिंग से मेरी कंपनी में पैसा आया, और उससे ट्रिगर क्या हो जाएगा? कन्वर्टेबल नोट्स, कि वो इक्विटी में ट्रांसफर हो जाएंगे. इसके अंदर इन्वेस्टर के पास ऑप्शन नहीं है, तो अगर वो वैल्यूएशन से खुश भी नहीं है, उसको फिर भी वो इक्विटी के अंदर कन्वर्ट करने पड़ते हैं. बट यहाँ ऑप्शनल कन्वर्टेबल डिवेंचर्स के पास उनके पास ऑप्शन आ जाता है, वो चाहें तो उसको अभी भी इंटरेस्ट के ऊपर कर सकते हैं। वो चाहते हैं कि हो सकता है ये दोबारा फंड रेज करेगी कंपनी, तो उनको उनके शेयर का प्राइस और बढ़ जाएगा उसके, और वो एग्जिट ले लेंगे, मगर तब तक वो इसका इंटरेस्ट मिलता रहे, राइट। वैल्यूएशन इस पर्टिकुलर प्रोसेस के अंदर भी डेफर्ड रहती है। वैल्यूएशन डेफर्ड का मतलब होता है कि वैल्यूएशन तभी करी जाएगी जब फंड रेजिंग के लिए वैल्यूएशन निकालनी पड़ेगी, तो आपको इस टाइम पे नेगोशिएट नहीं करना है इन्वेस्टर्स के साथ। सेकेंड थिंग इज, एडवांटेजेस क्या रहती हैं स्टार्टअप्स के लिए और इन्वेस्टर्स के लिए स्पेशली, कि वो मार्केट कंडीशन के हिसाब से अपनी इक्विटी को डाइल्यूट कर सकता है या रिटेन कर सकता है, या अभी कन्वर्ट ही नहीं कर रहा। जैसे मैंने आपको बताया कि अगर उन्होंने चीज देखी कि एक्चुअली में स्टार्टअप की वैल्यूएशन जो होनी चाहिए थी वो 10 करोड़ की होनी चाहिए थी, मगर जो अभी फंड रेज हुआ है वो नेगोशिएशन के बाद 5 करोड़ पे आ गया, तो अगर वो अब इक्विटी को अपने कन्वर्ट करेंगे तो उनकी इक्विटी का प्राइस कम रह जाएगा, बट रैदर ही रिटेन्स दैट इक्विटी, वो चेंज ही नहीं करते उसको, दे कंटिन्यू विद द इंटरेस्ट ऑन देयर वेंचर्स, एंड वंस दिस फंड्स अगेन, then they have an option of converting these debentures into equity. So liquidity बहुत ज़्यादा बढ़ जाती है इस प्रोसेस के अंदर। we can move ahead. Now here comes the comparison table। जो भी तक हमने सारी बातें करी हैं उस वो सारा anyone who wants to take a screenshot can take a screenshot at this particular time, because these are the different options that we just discussed about: convertible debentures, then compulsory convertible debentures, then comes preference shares, then optional as well. So here you see valuation timing. With convertible debentures there is deferred. With compulsory it's immediate, because we need to tell them that this is the share price that we'll be converting it to. Optional convertible debentures is deferred, because eventually after fundraising the valuation will be done. And optional preference share comes in immediate, because no matter how optional it is, we always have to tell the valuation of the company to our preference shareholders, so that they understand and they take decision taking that preference shares as well. Then comes convertible flexibility. CCD, as I told you, convertible debentures, it's mandatory. You have to convert them into equity. Then preference shares also have a conversion does not have a conversion flexibility. It is mandatory. Whereas optional convertible notes have give them a leverage that they can opt whether to convert it right now or whether to convert it in the next round. Similarly, with the optional preference shares, it's it's optional that you can convert the shares into equity itself. Then comes the best use case. Now this is the important one. Who for whom this is beneficial and who should opt for this? Now, mandatory and or let's say convertible notes, early stage founders should opt for it. The reason for this is, first thing is they're getting the money. Second thing is they do not have to get into equity negotiations or value negotiations. And eventually, if even if let's say after 3 years or after fundraising, they have to give some equity, it's a good win for them. Then comes preference share. Preference share debentures will only be, or it's preferred to be, given by scaling companies, because these are the guys who have some cash flow coming in, right? And they can opt for these priorities to be given to some shareholders. Then comes the optional debentures. This is mid stage, not a particular reason why, but usually investors side are more interested when the business is in mid stage. They are working, they're scaling, and this is where investors are more inclined towards coming in, because it actually gives them much more opportunity of liquidation of their shares. And then optional preference shares is on the later stage, because there are two options. First thing is these shares are, or the money that is being raised by these shareholders, is they have an opportunity to actually change it, whether to convert it into equity or not, which means that they have that kind of decision making power of retaining those shares with them. Second thing is they have the preference shares, which means that they have priority in everything. So only later stage companies should consider these things, because by these let's say decision making by these preference shareholders, it won't affect them that large. But if an early stage company give them these kind of things, then decision making can be hindrance due to these things.
Okay, and Abhishek, one thing I just want to add. There's an option, CCD option is only available for the early stage startup. So they should go for this, or they can go other stage also.
No, definitely. It's like the best use case. For example, if we talk about compulsory or let's say normal convertible notes, early stage founders, it's easier for them to gain money through that. It's a riskier for investor, but for early stage investors or let's say early stage founder as well, this is the preferred place to be in. The reason why is that a lot of startup founders do not know that what is the valuation, how much equity needs to be diluted, right? I have seen startups giving 35% equity on the first stage itself, and that was an angel fund or even a friends and family round. So now the negotiation and the amount was not so big, but now when they realize that they have some market gap that they can actually fill, there is a good opportunity coming in. But now they do not have much equity to dilute, and eventually they have to, to gain that kind of capital, they have to give much more equity. So at the end, friends and family were sitting at 35, investor was sitting at 25, and they were sitting at 12% each. So that directly affected their ownership and decision making as well. So at this particular time it's beneficial for them. And the thing is, not many early stage founders know these things. If you ask and you go to any startup, if I talk about myself as well, a lot of startups that comes to me early stage idea based, or let's say an year old, they're looking for equity based financing. But
Yeah.
they do not either know or understand that there is other options as well, where you can ask for debt and eventually can convert it into equity. Eventually it's beneficial for you. You're getting the debt right now, right? Which means that you're getting the money quickly. The thing with debt and equity is that equity takes time. I have seen raising funds being raised by 2 months as well. I've seen funds being raised by 9 months as well. It took that time. But when I talk about debentures, when I talk about debt, I have provided debt financing within 7 days to a startup. So it's quicker in that way, right? And eventually, if you have minimized the for manufacturing units or some businesses who thinks that if I put this money, I can generate revenue through that by just let's say in the matter of days or months, then this option is good, because what you are lagging is only the capital, right? I always tell my founders that if you are looking for equity fundraising, don't just raise funds for capital. If you're looking for a person to get involved in a business, if you're looking for their guidance, for their mentorship, for their network, then only go for an equity based financing. Either if you think that you are in just need of capital, and you can using that capital you can eventually generate revenue, go for debt as well. People think it's an Indian mindset that debt is bad, loan is bad. But if you it should be a calculated one, that I know that if I set up a factory and this is the money that I'll be needing, but eventually I have done some market research and eventually it will be generating revenue after 1 year, then why not? Right? I have taken that kind of a question as well, that let's say if I'm asking for 1.5 cr, I'll be I'll be earning money through that as well. Though I'm in need of 2 cr, but I'm only asking for 1 cr, because eventually I'll be generating money and giving back that debt money back as well, along with the interest. Early stage founders do
Okay.
not get funds from business because they do not showcase any traction, they do not have some collaterals in that. Then these options are better for them.
So I request all the startup who are this a part of the session. So please understand all these points which are just told by the Abhishek. So just understand the difference between them. And yeah, okay.
And also, Anil, I would love to, add this, that awareness is lacking nowadays, because the thing is, lot of startup founders, or let's say equity-based financing is being, really celebrated nowadays. So
Yes.
when we talk about these terms, I know that around 80% of them won't be actually knowing these terms as well. That okay, these are also an option, right? Because equity based financing is being celebrated like a festival in our country, that everyone If I tell you, I got approached by at least 15, 20 startups a day. Everyone is asking for an equity based financing. And when I propose that, don't go for an equity based financing as of now, any to anyone, go for a debt one. This will be a better option for you. They're like, no, Abhishek, this is something that we are not inclined towards. Though they do not know the whole concept, but they're not open to it because awareness is not there. In a psychological aspect, loans are bad, right? But the thing is, they're doing so well, and they should not involve anyone in their business as of now, because obviously some decision making will be happening. He's the guy who has invested in your business, and he wants to actually play some important role in the company, right? But if your business is doing good, only criteria is capital, and you think that you can eventually make money through that capital, go for these kind of options as well.
Obviously, startup need to do both this. Go with
Yeah.
the options also. Yeah.
Now, guys, comes the pros and cons. I think we have already discussed it. When we talk about convertible debts, valuation benefits is something that takes the baton, because deferred valuation reduces early stage complexities. By that, what I mean is that now an early stage founder who has just started his business, who wants to start his business, is looking for funds, so that he has a good plan that he has made. He has done some research and he's looking for fundraising or some funds from an investor, but he does not know that how much my business is worth it, because he's not went into the market, right? Or he's a simple guy who belongs to a business family. He understands what business is. He does not understand these complexities of valuation, how it is calculated. What he knows is that he can go to his CA and tell him that, can you value my company, and whatever the valuation he gives him, he shared it with the investor, and investor asks for a hefty amount of equity in return of the money that he's sharing. So don't do so. Valuation benefit is that early stage founder, do your business. Tell them that once we raise funds, I'll be giving you some equity, or let's say you'll be having some options to either convert them into equity or not. Just go through my process, see my traction, see my process, how I'm utilizing your fund, how I'm generating your revenue. I can safeguard your money by giving you interest on your debentures by the time we raise funds, right? And for me, valuation is not needed as of now. Let me gain some traction. Let me work for, let's say, one or 2 years, and when I have some solid proof to give to an investor that I am worth, let's say, 5 CR or 10 CR, then only I'll be giving any equity to them. Second thing is, the con is the pressure, obviously, because if you see a lot of startup founders who are saying that, Abhishek, we are not looking to raise funds through debt, is because they think that they'll be getting the money at higher interest rate. That's the only thing, because banks are not giving any money to them without any collateral or without seeing any traction. So private investors, when they come, because they are investing in a high risky investment, they ask for much more in interest as well, starting from, let's say, 13%, 16%, 19% is something that I've personally seen myself, right? So there is definitely a pressure that, if I've asked, let's say, 1 CR of money in convertible notes, I have to give interest on that, and that amount is pretty big. It seems to be pretty big in that manner. So just do your research. If you think that you can make money more than the interest you are paying, then eventually it's a good deal, right? If you have the expenses is covered in the revenue that you are generating, and you're still making money, and eventually you are gaining some traction as well, then it's a good deal for you. Now, when we talk about equity financing, valuation impact is, obviously, if you want to raise funds through equity, you have to do your evaluation of the company, right? Then also it depends on the negotiation that you are having. You can come to me, let's say, Anil, you come to me and you tell me that, Abhishek, I'm looking to raise 2 CR, and I'm willing to give 15% of the equity in return of that. But once you come to go to an investor, negotiations happen. You came to me next day, Abhishek, I gave 25% for 1 CR, because of that negotiation that happened, right? So that's how it affected, because the valuation that you went to has completely came down, because you have given much more equity and you have got lesser money. And I think अगर आपने शार्क टैंक भी देखा होगा तो शार्क टैंक में ये चीज़ आपने पक्का देखी होगी कि आज हम 5 करोड़ रुपए लेने आए हैं फॉर 2% इक्विटी, वो एट द एंड 10% इक्विटी भी देता है और 3 करोड़ रुपए लेके जाता है. सो वैल्यूएशन यहाँ पे नेगोशिएशंस के बेसिस पे और जो कॉम्प्लेक्सिटीज आती है नेगोशिएशन के अंदर वो वेरी कर जाती है एक सेकेंड में. सेकेंड थिंग इज फाउंडर्स डेल्यूट एट इशुएंस लॉस ऑफ सम कंट्रोल. जैसे ही इशू हुआ, जैसे ही पैसा मेरे बैंक में आया, वैसे ही मैंने इक्विटी इशू कर दी और वहीं पे मेरी उतनी परसेंट की ओनरशिप चली गई. जबकि अगर हम डेट की बारे में बात करें, हमारे पास पैसा अभी आता है, हम ओनरशिप, इक्विटी, हर चीज़ बाद में देते हैं. थर्ड थिंग इज अनसर्टेनिटी इन करेक्ट वैल्यूएशन फॉर अर्ली स्टेज. एज आई टोल्ड यू, आप अर्ली स्टेज पे कैसे जज करोगे कि आपकी वैल्यूएशन कैसी है, जब तक आपके पास कोई पास्ट ट्रैक्शन नहीं है. अभी तक मैंने कोई काम नहीं किया, अभी कोई बिजनेस नहीं किया, अभी तक मैं मार्केट में गया नहीं हूँ, मैं पैसा सिर्फ इसलिए ले रहा हूँ ताकि मैं मार्केट में जा सकूँ, राइट. तो अभी इसकी वैल्यूएशन मैं कैसे जज करूँ? वो हो सकता है किस मेरे पर्सपेक्टिव से 2 करोड़ की भी हो सकती है, एक इन्वेस्टर के हिसाब से 1 करोड़ की भी हो सकती है, मार्केट के हिसाब से 5 करोड़ की भी हो सकती है. तो डिफरेंस बहुत ज़्यादा बड़ा आ जाता है, तो वहाँ पे अनसर्टिनिटी बहुत बढ़ जाती है. कई बार ये मैंने अपने स्टार्टअप्स के अंदर भी देखा है. एक स्टार्टअप आया बिकॉज दे सॉ देयर कॉम्पिटिटर रेज 5 CR. सो देन दे टेल मी दैट अभिषेक, बिल्कुल मेरा जैसा बिजनेस है और वो 5 CR रेज करा उन्होंने, तो मुझे भी यही चीज़ करनी है. मगर जब वो फंड रेजिंग के लिए गए, उन्हें सिर्फ 1.5 करोड़ मिला. क्यों? क्योंकि उन्होंने बैक स्टोरी नहीं देखी. वो फाउंडर ऑलरेडी 3 बिजनेसेस बना चुका था जो कि वो सेल कर चुका था मोर देन 100 CR के अंदर. तो उसमें इन्वेस्टर्स ने पैसा यहाँ पे इन्वेस्ट ही नहीं किया, उन्होंने सिर्फ उस फाउंडर के ऊपर पैसा इन्वेस्ट किया, राइट. तो यहाँ पे इस तरीके की अनसर्टेनिटीज भी बहुत आ जाती है. अब आप तो वैल्यूएशन बना के गए थे 5 करोड़ के हिसाब से, मगर आपके पास पैसा आया 1.5 करोड़ के हिसाब से. जब आप दोबारा फंड रेज करोगे तो वो 1.5 करोड़ के हिसाब की वैल्यूएशन पे ही पैसा रेज करोगे दोबारा. सो इवेंचुअली इक्विटी के अंदर ये चीज़ होती है, अनसर्टेनिटी होती है अर्ली स्टेज स्टार्टअप्स के लिए कि आप एक्चुअली में वैल्यूएशन बनाओगे कैसे. वैल्यूएशन ही मेन चीज़ है, क्योंकि इसके बेसिस पे ही एक इन्वेस्टर आप पे उतना पैसा लगाएगा और उतनी इक्विटी लेगा आपसे. सो प्लीज ट्रीट योर इक्विटी वेरी केयरफुली. आई कम अक्रॉस लॉट ऑफ स्टार्टअप्स जो मुझे बताते हैं, जो मुझे पर्सनली कहते हैं कि अभिषेक आप हमसे 50% इक्विटी ले लो बट हमें फंड रेज करा दो. So this is also a scenario, right? Just for giving or helping them raise funds, they're willing to give me 50% of equity. So treat your equity really carefully, because this is something that will determine how you're going to be working in future. ऐसे बहुत सारे स्टार्टअप फाउंडर्स आपने सुना होगा जिन्होंने इक्विटी इन्वेस्टर्स में बांटी, बट एट द एंड वो अपना कंट्रोल ही छूट गया उनकी कंपनी के ऊपर. नाउ द बोर्ड मेंबर आर रनिंग देयर कंपनी, right? If that is your plan, that one day I'll be giving all my equity and relaxing with 1,000 crore money in my bank, and I don't want to run any company, I'll just relax my life, then go for it. But if you're looking for, let's say, it's your baby, it's your brainchild, right, and you want to grow it, then treat your equity with utmost sincerity, and while you're sharing it with anyone, squeeze the lemon at the end so that you can grasp as much worth of that equity from an investor's side. This is the same thing. Choose the right investment types based on valuation and growth. So we have already discussed at what stage investor preferences and startup stage. I think we have gone through all these factors that needs to be considered in this manner. That's it.
Yeah. So I think there's one thing कि जैसे हमारे पास बहुत सारे स्टार्टअप्स हैं एंड उनकी एक क्वेरी काफ़ी ज़्यादा रहती है कि हमें इन्वेस्टमेंट चाहिए, इन्वेस्टमेंट चाहिए, इन्वेस्टमेंट चाहिए.
Yeah.
तो दिस इज द मोस्ट इम्पॉर्टेंट थिंग कि स्टार्टअप जैसे ही वो स्टार्ट करते हैं तो उनका एक ही क्वेश्चन रहता है कि इन्वेस्टमेंट कब आएगा. एंड वी
Yeah.
आर रेडी फॉर डायल्यूशन, रेडी फॉर इक्विटी डायल्यूशन, और जैसे आपने केस बताया तो ये मोस्टली ऐसा होता है. तो
Yeah.
इस केसेस में या अर्ली स्टेज में जो स्टार्टअप्स आते हैं, सो व्हाट यू सजेस्ट देम कि क्या उनको प्रॉपर्ली क्या डिसीजन उनको लेना चाहिए कि डायरेक्टली वो इक्विटी के लिए जाएं या फिर डायरेक्टली इन्वेस्टमेंट के लिए जाएं या फिर
Hmm.
जब वो स्टार्टअप करते हैं तो उस टाइम पे उनको फाइनेंशियल कैसे मैनेज करने चाहिए कि अर्ली बहुत जल्दी उनको ये सिचुएशन ना आए कि उनको इस
Yeah.
तरीके से क्या।
I think Anil, what is happening is that nowadays raising investment has become a trend, or maybe everyone is aware of this fact. If I tell you that in the year 2021, there were not so many startups who were looking for fundraising, but after that, there was a huge, let's say, wave that came after 2020 or 2021. A huge wave came where everyone got to know about that. Okay, the fundraising is happening. You can eventually get money from someone else to run your own business, right? Now the thing is, why these startups are actually, when they're starting the business, why they're looking for directly for investment. There can be two options, and this can, this can be a bit harsh as well. But usually what I have seen is people are not doing their homework. People are not confident in their business idea, or in their business itself, so they're not willing to put their money. If we see in past years, businesses who were running businesses or who were doing businesses, someone who was confident enough that I can eventually make business through this, right, I can eventually make money through this, and he's confident enough, he asks for, he saves money so that he can put in the business, and obviously he'll do some hardcore homework before investing his money. Second thing is, if that is not sufficient, he asks for friends and family. Now we call it friends and family round. But eventually it was happening that I can ask my father, or some relative who can spare some money, and I can induce that in my business. But that also happens when a relative also knows that this guy is sincere. He has done his homework. He knows that he'll be making money, and he continuously keep a check on it. Nowadays, what is happening is that because of this scenario that I'll be raising funds, or I can raise funds, they are lagging on the homework that they're doing. They're not confident enough. If I tell them, startup comes to me and they tell me, Abhishek, we are looking to raise funds. I tell them that, okay, that's good, but you need to do some research. If you are not willing to do some research, there are some documents that needs to be shared with an investor. Okay, this document is the first document that an investor will see to understand your business, and that's it. That is the essence, like a resume to a company. If you don't share a resume, how would a company, hire you? So this is the similar kind of document that you have to share. Just put a lot of efforts on this document, because if he sees that, okay, this is the business he's interested in, then he eventually will give you a call and schedule a meeting. But when I ask them that how much money have you invested of yours in the business, they tell me nothing. I've just created a business plan and I'm looking for investment. This is the guy who has a good job, right, earning more than 2 lakhs a month, and but he's looking to raise funds. Why? Because he does not want to invest in his own business. He's not that confident enough, right? So I always tell founders, investors money is not free money. Eventually you have to give it back. It's a loan that you're taking from these guys.
Hmm.
Yeah, they are only investing in you to gain that return of investment, na? So you should be quite finicky about it, that this is I'm taking someone else's money and I can't fail, right? Second thing is, do your homework. If you're looking to raise funds, na, go to your family, ask your father, is he willing to give you money? The father will actually, when we're talking about emotions, he's there. But when we talk about that, he's giving his hard earned money to his son, but he knows that, maybe he has not done his homework, maybe he's not that sincere, he won't give it, right? So
I think
first
it's a
try
very
that.
good.
Try your relatives as well, who knows you, right? And then eventually
Yeah,
go for, if you think that this works, then go for that. But believe in your startup, do your homework, spend some time in the market. Don't just sit on laptop, Google how many people are looking for these things, what are other businesses who have generated money through these businesses, but rather do your homework, spend some time on your business, spend some money on your business, because then you will understand the essence, that whether the business is working or not. you, then you will understand that, okay, is it a loss making business or not. Then you eventually will stop, because you don't have that much money to burn as well. So start with that, become more sincere. Don't keep an option. I have worked with startups who are bootstrapped, generating a revenue of more than 10 cr, and till date they came to me for advice but not for equity, and they tell me that, Abhishek, everything's going well. We started from scratch and it's still bootstrap, and they feel, let's say, pride that we are a bootstrap company in, set of startups where they're surrounded with someone's looking for fund. They have not started the company. They are only on idea based. They have not registered the company as well, but they're looking for funding. An investor sees that kind of sincerity in investing. He's not just, bringing his free money to burn on any startup. So that is something that you need to understand. And obviously, if he sees that risk, eventually he'll ask for much more equity. Then all in all, it's a loss for you and win-win for him.
Exactly. Very true. And suppose any startup is getting offer from the investor, like we can go with the CCD, we can go with the CCP and OCD also. So what will be the best option? मुझे उनकी कौन सा ऑप्शन किस ऑप्शन पे जाना चाहिए एंड आपके अकॉर्डिंग क्या है इसमें?
आई थिंक जब हम इन ऑप्शंस के बारे में बात करते हैं, थोड़ा सा आपको टाइम स्पेंड करना चाहिए कि मुझे अगर फंड रेज करना है तो मुझे क्यों करना है, कितने टाइम के लिए चाहिए, किस तरीके का फंड रेज करना है, क्या मुझे इन्वॉल्वमेंट चाहिए लोगों की या नहीं चाहिए, क्या मुझे सिर्फ कैपिटल की वजह से फंड रेज करना है या मेरे और भी कुछ रीजंस हैं। ऐसा हो सकता है कि मैं अकेला फाउंडर हूँ, राइट, मेरे पास एक्सपर्टीज नहीं है, तो मुझे फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल एक गाइड चाहिए, एक मेंटर चाहिए। तो उसकी वजह से उस ये एक मेरी कंसिडरेशन है। दिस इज अ गुड क्राइटेरिया टू फाइंड द रीजन टू इन्वेस्ट इन। तो इस तरीके से, और अच्छा, किस तरीके का मैं बिजनेस और किस तरीके की इन्वेस्टमेंट मैं हैंडल कर सकता हूँ। कई बार ऐसा भी होता है, मैं मांग रहा हूँ 5 करोड़, मगर मैंने जिंदगी में कभी 5 करोड़ देखे नहीं है, मुझे पता नहीं है कि मैं क्या करूँगा। मेरे बैंक में आएंगे, उसके बाद मैं सोचूंगा कहाँ इन्वेस्ट करना है, राइट। सो आपको ये चीज़ भी देखनी है कि अगर आप पास तो कर रहे हो, मगर इन्वेस्टर ये देखेगा कि आपने आज तक जिंदगी में इतना पैसा हैंडल करा है कभी। क्या वो, आप कोई ना कोई तो डिसीजन ले लोगे और वहाँ पे वो पैसा अगर लॉस हो गया तो इन्वेस्टर का पैसा तो गया, आप फिर रेज करोगे फंड, कोई फायदा नहीं रहता उस चीज़ का। तो आप पहले अपने बनाओ क्राइटेरिया कि आपको एक्चुअली में फंड रेज किससे करना है, कितना करना है, कब तक करना है, कहाँ तक करना है, कि मतलब मुझे सीरीज ए तक भी जाना है या सीरीज बी तक भी जाना है, और एट द एंड मैं इसकी वैल्यूएशन किस तरीके की चाहता हूँ। तो आपको ये एनालाइज करना पड़ेगा उस वजह से, और स्पेंड सम टाइम ऑन दिस। आप जल्दबाजी मत करो कि मुझे फंड रेज करना है, क्योंकि फंड रेज तो वैसे भी 2-3 महीने लगा देता है आराम से, अगर आपकी बहुत ही अच्छी अप्रोच है तो, राइट। तो इतना टाइम लगा रहे हो तो उससे पहले थोड़ा सा और टाइम अपने होमवर्क पे लगाओ। ऑप्शंस देखो किस तरीके के, कि आपको बेस्ट सूटेड क्या है। कितने ही ऑप्शंस हैं, कितने ही ऑप्शंस हैं। क्राउड फंडिंग भी एक ऑप्शन है, एक्सप्लोर करो। बहुत सारे स्टार्टअप्स नहीं करते। आई केम अक्रॉस लॉट ऑफ गुड स्टार्टअप्स जो जो क्राउड फंडिंग से पैसा जिन्होंने रेस किया, एंड उन्होंने उस क्राउड फंडिंग वाले लोगों को इक्विटी दे दी। जस्ट इमेजिन, जैसे आपने नाम सुना होगा जोस्टल या हॉस्टलर। जोस्टल ने ये चीज़ करी थी। जोस्टल ने बोला कि आप जब उन्होंने प्रॉपर्टीज़ बाय करी तो उन्होंने बोला कि आप मुझे 10 लाख रुपए दो और आप लाइफ टाइम के लिए यहाँ पे रह सकते हो मेरी प्रॉपर्टीज़ के अंदर, एक को लेके। तो उन्होंने उस तरीके से भी फंड रेस करा था। तो उन्होंने कहा कि मेरे को डायरेक्ट इक्विटी में जाना ही नहीं है। जब मेरे पास प्रॉपर्टी है, जब मेरे पास इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर है, बाय कांट आई लेवरेज इट। तो आप मुझे 10 लाख रुपए दो, आप लाइफ टाइम के लिए आपका एक रूम फिक्स रहे इस लोकेशन के ऊपर। बट और अच्छा, अगर आपने 10 लाख रुपए दे दिए एंड यू वांट टू पुट इट ऑन रेंट और एएनबी, हम उस हॉस्टल की तरफ से आपको उसके भी पैसे देंगे आपके कमरे के, क्योंकि अभी तक तो मेरे पास, मेरी जेब से तो कुछ जा नहीं रहा ना। जब बिजनेस बनेगा तभी तो पैसे देंगे। तो आप बिजनेस बनने के लिए पैसे दे। तो उन्होंने ऐसे भी, इस तरीके से भी बहुत फंड रेस किया था क्राउड फंडिंग के थ्रू। तो आप ऑप्शंस देखो, आप सिर्फ इक्विटी की तरफ मत भागो, राइट। डेट जाना है तो डेट के अंदर देखो, क्राउड फंडिंग जाना है क्राउड फंडिंग में जाओ। ऐसी बहुत गवर्नमेंट स्कीम्स भी लोगों को पता नहीं है कि ऐसी बहुत गवर्नमेंट स्कीम भी है जो कि आपको सपोर्ट करती हैं कुछ ना कुछ फंड से, अर्ली स्टेज स्टार्टअप के लिए। आपको 1-2 लाख रुपए मिल जाएंगे ना स्टार्टिंग में, सिर्फ आइडिया वैलिडेट करने के लिए बहुत लगते हैं, कि वो भी समझ नहीं आएगा कि कहाँ पे खर्च करना है, राइट। सो अलग अलग ऑप्शंस देखो, कंसिडरेशन में लो, स्पेंड सम टाइम ऑन दिस। डिसीजन जो बाद में लोगे वो अच्छा ही रहेगा, चाहे वो इक्विटी के बेसिस पे रहेगा, चाहे वो डेट के बेसिस पे रहेगा, चाहे वो किसी और तरीके। हो सकता है फैमिली ही आपको सपोर्ट करे, आपको इक्विटी इस तरीके से देनी ना पड़े, राइट। और फैमिली को तो आप वापस बायबैक भी कर सकते
Very true. And I think it's a very difficult to go to the family after starting the startup. But
Yeah.
yeah, they should try. They should try.
If your family, someone who knows you from, since your birth, is not willing to invest money in you, then you have to sit in a corner and think why,
Yeah. Okay.
right?
So, okay, and I think most of the questions are already answered by you, and I will beautifully explain each and every steps from your side. I think it's very informative. So, thank you so much, Abhishek, for your wonderful information session to making this presentation. So, I also appreciate all the participants who have learned something from the session. Please implement in your business. And once again, thank you so much. Yeah, Abhishek,
And guys, if you need any kind of assistance, and can share my contact details with you guys as well. Would love to connect with you. Any kind of guidance is needed, be in fundraising, be in, let's say, any kind of, let's say, a quick call with me, an intro call with me, just to understand how your business can work on, anywhere that you're lagging. I can provide that kind of assistance. Feel free to reach out to me.
yeah, definitely. I'll share the details about you in the startup group so they can easily contact you. So thank
Sounds
you so
good.
much. Abhishek. Thank you so
Thank you.
much.
Thank you so much, guys. Okay, bye.